Last month, two of Europe's most powerful political leaders met for the first time, Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. They met in Venice, where the fascists put on a big show. Adolf Hitler is a rather new arrival on the world scene, although his dynamic leadership has already had effect well beyond the Germany he governs. But it was noticed that beside his very self-confident host, Hitler looked rather nervous. Although Italy has a king, it's Benito Mussolini who is Il Duce, the leader. He's no newcomer, but a powerful dictator who's written, "Fascism wants men to be active and to engage in activity with all their energy," and has stirred Italy into action. A dictator who seems already to have gone far towards carrying out his aim. I will make Italy great, respected, feared.
Sentiamo come la creazione della nostra volontà attesa dello spasimo della vittoria.
To those of us used to being ruled by parliament with free speech and a free press, Mussolini's political style with dramatic gestures and the movement he leads, which is called fascism, may appear odd, at times even laughable.
Aveva Cesare, Virgilio ed Augusto.
Mussolini on a public platform looks very different from other modern political leaders, such as Stanley Baldwin.
I cherish the hope that the national government will carry into fruition those things to which we were pledged, to which we...
Watch Ramsay MacDonald.
In order to perform that national duty, have had to risk everything that is dear to a public man.
Compare Mussolini's style with President Roosevelt's.
This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper.
And Mussolini is very much more self-confident than Hitler.
Die große Zeit ist jetzt angebrochen, auf die wir 14 Jahre lang gehofft hatten. Deutschland ist nun erwacht.
La vittoria è per noi, per I primi.
The reaction Mussolini gets clearly shows the power of his way of making speeches and the great support given to him by 40 million Italians. And his followers look very different from the political parties and rallies we're used to. The uniforms, banners, regimental shouting, and the old Roman salute, the upraised arm, have served as a model for leaders like him elsewhere, especially for Hitler in Germany. And in Britain, Oswald Mosley and his black shirts have copied Mussolini's political style.
Oh, dare we go forward to action? Let who dare follow us in this hour.
Has Mussolini learnt any publicity tricks from the communists or influenced their propaganda methods? The movements look the same in many ways. Like the Russians, who've used film with great effect to glorify their revolution, Mussolini also knows that film can be useful in politics. As American Movietone showed us in the late 20s, Premier Mussolini was the first foreign personage to make a talking picture.
I am very glad to be able to express my friendly feelings towards the American nation. Friendship with which Italy looks at the millions of citizens who from Alaska to Florida, from the Pacific to the Atlantic, live in the United States, is today deeply rooted in our hearts.
Mussolini seems to have such confidence in himself. How many other leaders might now copy him? Into how many countries will fascism spread?
In the life of both nations.
But of course, it's not just as a brilliant persuader or propagandist that Il Duce is known and respected. Much more, it's for what he's done for his country, which used to be thought of as something of a joke by other Europeans. Between 1919 and 1925, Mussolini promised many things to his people: political stability, law and order, prosperity, social reform, and empire. Italy wants peace and quiet, work and calm. I will give these things with love if possible, and with force if necessary. The workers, he said, know that fascism wants to put nothing more than order and discipline upon the nation, and to help give it strength to renew progress and prosperity. They've nothing to fear from the fascist government. Their just rights will be protected. Carpenetti's painting gives this official view. Well, how far has Mussolini kept his promises? Is the charge that little is happening in Italy except propaganda justified? Albertini, a liberal, not a fascist, said, Mussolini has given the government freshness, youth and vigor, and won favor at home and abroad. He has saved Italy from the socialist danger, which has been poisoning our life for 20 years. Because Italy now has firm government and law and order, long-term planning is possible. It's prepared the way for Mussolini's most original idea, the corporate state. Anti-fascist cartoons are always showing the working classes being held down by a brutal fascist regime. Indeed, beatings and forcing people to drink castor oil have all happened. And cartoons show Mussolini supported by big business and other powerful groups with money wanting their own way. But how do these views fit with the official description of the aims of the new corporate state? The fascist ideal is that each person should work for everyone's benefit, not for selfish gain. Neither socialism nor capitalism can produce this, so both must be held back. In 1925, Union power, which had caused so much trouble and damaged trade after the war, was checked by the Vidoni Palace Pact, which forbade strikes. Negotiations on wages, hours and conditions of work now take place within corporations, which have developed since 1926. In each corporation, employers and employees are equally represented, with expert advisors and, as well, 3 fascists who see that decisions are in the interests of the state. Soon there'll be 22 corporations, each responsible for one type of employment. For example, education. A pattern has been developed of local councils which elect regional councils, which elect a national council. Last year, Mussolini, as Minister of Corporations, announced that the National Council would replace the Parliament, so that laws would be made directly by those who work in the factories and fields rather than by politicians. Churchill is one of the many politicians who've praised these plans as a very promising development. And the idea seems to have influenced men as different as Mosley and Roosevelt. The corporate state is largely a promise for the future, but Mussolini's economic policy has already had practical results. If we look at how our press and newsreel companies show us modern Italy, we might think Italy is still a country of peasants, orchards, vineyards, and wine festivals. But remember, modern industries have grown. Industries such as Fiat, Pirelli, and Montecatini chemicals. Oil refineries have been built. Production of artificial silk has gone up by 8 times in the textile industry. The production of iron and steel has almost doubled, each by the same amount, from 0.3 million tonnes in 1918 to 0.5 million tonnes in 1930. Railways have been modernised and now run on time. Some steam trains have been replaced, as 5,000 kilometres of line have been electrified. Indeed, electrical power has almost doubled. Trunk roads, or autostrada, sweep their way across the country, as the Times described on October the 29th, 1928. The road connecting Rome and Ostia, and called the Road to the Sea, has been made as far as possible in a straight line, and will also have 2 tracks for slower vehicles. The road will be lit by special lamps, which will avoid dazzling headlights. Because the state has put a lot of money into these projects, and in the building of sports grounds, schools and flats, there's much less unemployment. In agriculture, the battle for grain has nearly doubled wheat production, and wheat imports have been more than halved. At harvest time, Mussolini knows the publicity value of giving a hand. The draining of malaria-ridden swamps, such as the Pontine marshes near Rome and the Volturno Valley, will improve health, bring new land into use, and has already given work to thousands. As yet, the battle for births, an attempt to increase the population to 60 million by 1950, has had only limited success, though Mussolini is known to take a very personal interest in this. Simply having a job has meant life is better for thousands, and the fascists have done more than that. More money has been spent on education, and an illiteracy rate of 38% among people over 6 years old in 1911 has now been halved. Even the children's free time has been planned for them, as the Child's Guide to Fascism explains. From the age of 8 to 14, the boy, as a member of the Balila, is trained both physically and morally. On reaching 14, he passes into the avanguardisti, while as a youth of 18, he can take his place with the fascist levy in the ranks of the National Fascist Party. They must learn, as part of a fascist creed, "I believe in the genius of Mussolini, in our Holy Father fascism, and in the communion of its martyrs, in the conversion of the Italians, in the resurrection of the empire." The youth of Italy are told by the fascist party, the young must know how to obey, to get the right, or rather the duty, of commanding. More than the rest, they must know how to dare. More than others, they must despise an ideal of life of indifference, or what is worse, of comfort. Mussolini has always been a sportsman, and he's encouraged Italians of all ages to take part in many kinds of leisure activities by doing them himself. The state organization for leisure now controls thousands of theaters, libraries, dramatic societies, brass bands, orchestral societies, and all football clubs. Mussolini says that the fascist view of life is a religious one, and the importance of religion and the family has always played a big part in fascist propaganda. So there was little surprise when 5 years ago, Mussolini and the Pope agreed to recognize each other's authority. Roman Catholicism was to be the state religion. Religious marriages were to be recognized and religion taught in school. The King and Queen of Italy paid a state visit to the Pope to celebrate the event. The Pope gave up his claim to rule any area other than the Vatican City and gave his blessing to the Italian state. For many Italians, this is still the best thing the regime has managed to do, and it's made them feel that Mussolini has got rid of his socialist past, and that fascism, for all its temporary faults, is really all right. All this has made a great impression on important public figures we think as good judges of men. In 1924, Austin Chamberlain described Mussolini as a wonderful man, working for the greatness of his country. In 1927, Winston Churchill said, "I could not but be charmed by the friendly and simple attitude of Signor Mussolini. It was easy to see that his sole thought is the lasting well-being of the Italian people as he sees it." Churchill went on to say, "Italy has shown that there is a way to combat subversive forces. Italy has demonstrated that the great mass of the people, when it is well led, appreciates and is ready to defend the honor and stability of civil society. It provides the necessary antidote to the Russian virus." Lord Rothermere, the newspaper magnate, has described him as the greatest figure of courage. In the early 20s, the American ambassador to Rome, Richard Child, reported, "He has not only been able to change the lives of human beings, but he has changed their minds, their hearts, their spirits." Aristide Briand of France considers he is not only a great man, he is a good one. Praise indeed, but is it all as good as it looks? After all, Mussolini is also an expert newspaper editor whose job is to persuade. Are we just being persuaded? Is there a hidden cost? Is the price too high? Critics like Benedetto Croce, the historian, say that the Italian worker is no better off today and has lost all freedom. Such critics say that the secret police, censorship, official violence by black shirts, even murder, are a normal part of the fascist state. Yet, they still live and work in Italy. So how far can we rely on their views? Whatever critics say, Mussolini is safe. God has put his finger on the Duce. He is Italy's greatest son, the rightful heir of Caesar, is what the Fascist Party secretary said in 1926 after an assassination attempt by an Irish woman. And it's still true today, in 1934. Some of his German visitors apparently found him more impressive than Hitler, and reliable sources report the German Vice-Chancellor von Papen as saying, "He handled people like a man used to having his orders obeyed. Hitler always had a slight air of uncertainty, as though feeling his way, whereas Mussolini was calm and dignified and appeared the complete master." It's also rumoured that Mussolini didn't think much of his visitor, calling him a silly little clown and a talkative monk. Indeed, relations between the two dictators seem to have been uncertain throughout the year. In February, their interests clashed in Austria. This cartoon by Lowe shows Mussolini protecting his ally, the Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss, against threats from Hitler. And now the shocking assassination of Dollfuss this week on the 25th of July has caused a lot of military activity on the Austro-Italian border. What this will lead to isn't clear yet, but Mussolini seems confident enough. Certainly the man who's done so much so quickly, who's shown his power and authority in Corfu, secured Fiume from Yugoslavia, established himself at Locarno as one of the leading statesmen of Europe, and Italy, as a great power alongside Britain, has restored Italian national pride. Such a man need not fear the future. But can it continue? Is Italy strong enough to be a great power? Can Il Duce's ambitions in Africa be accepted by Britain and France? Can he continue to increase Italian influence in Austria and Hungary? Will Hitler be an ally or a competitor?